Hey y'all, this is Marla K. Hope everybody is doing well. Got a story from Desert News, came out on February the 11th, and it ties into the power and control the Catholic Church has over our leaders in our nation. And I've been highlighting over the last couple of years how the Pope has been increasingly more vocal and more outwardly aggressive about the power and about what they expect to be done in certain situations as it ties into the new global order in the United Nations world without no borders. So I don't really know what to make of this story because Colt 45, he's a Khazarian ball gargler. And, I just don't know. He's like the wild card. Like, you just don't know. I know he's here to oversee the fall of Babylon. But just, what his role will be, if he's like the pseudo villain because the real villain is behind him, i.e. JD Vance or somebody else, Elon Musk. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to bring y'all this story so you can just pay attention to the moves of the Vatican. It says, why tension between the Trump administration and the Catholic Church is ratcheting up. And it has to do with the immigrants or the illegal entrants. And I'm gonna read the story, but I will give y'all the money part. I'm gonna give y'all the other perspective of it after I read the story. So it says, Pope Francis criticized Donald Trump and his administration on Tuesday in a letter to U.S. Catholic bishops about mass deportation. The Pope wrote that while governments have a right to defend themselves, they should not turn a blind eye to men, women, and families who need help. They do it all the time. What you talking about? They only help the people that's here. They want the people to work here to take care of people who don't belong here. Who, you know what I'm saying? Like, it don't make no sense. But anyway, this whole flooding every country with immigrants is a part of the changing the cultures of nations, erasing national lines, and making it so that this is a one world system where you can go live where you want, do what you want. There's no nation. There's just the world. The act of deporting people who in many cases have left their own land for reasons of extreme poverty, insecurity, exploitation, persecution, or serious deterioration of the environment damages the dignity of men and women and of entire families, and places them in a state of particular vulnerability and defenselessness, Francis wrote. Funny how nobody don't never have none of these words for us. None of them. His letter includes a warning for administration officials. Now check this out. What is built on the basis of force and not on truth about the equal dignity of every human being begins badly and will end badly, he wrote. Now, I don't know what to think of all of this, but it sounds like a threat to me. Uh, I don't know what's going on, but something going on, and we need to pay attention. As of Wednesday morning, Trump had not responded to the Pope's letter. Get what? Bigoted, trash can mouth ain't have nothing to say? Come on now. His border czar, Tom Homan, criticized the Pope's comments in a Tuesday interview on Fox News. I've got harsh words for the Pope. I say this as a lifelong Catholic. Oh, another Catholic, see? He ought to focus on his work and leave enforcement to us. Oh, he's got a wall around the Vatican, doesn't he? Does he not? Holman said. Let me read that again. He's got a wall around the Vatican, does he not? Holman said per CBS. Ooh, the white peoples is being petty, baby. They petty. Petty Pettington. Mm. Pope Francis's letter is notable for its admonishing tone, but its content is not that surprising. Since Trump's campaign for the presidency in 2016, the Pope has urged him to adopt a more welcoming attitude towards immigrants and refugees, and to remember humanitarian concerns when forming national security policies. And he's saying that because that's a part of the United Nations agenda, which is really his agenda, which is really the New World Order agenda, which is Closet America's plan B, C, D, E, F, G agenda. So it's like crazy. But anyway, if you've been following this channel any significant amount of time, y'all know all the roads lead to Rome, and all the money is all tangled up, and all these different organizations. It's all just a big old scheme. Quote, before Trump's first administration, Francis famously said anyone who builds a wall to keep out migrants was not a Christian, the Associated Press reported. That's interesting. So, all throughout the Bible, all these nations had walls surrounding their territories so that they didn't have to worry about intruders, especially Israel, because they live so differently and set apart. But if you keep intruders out, you're not Christian. Whew, I tell you. Anyway, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops has also repeatedly urged changes to Trump's approach to immigration policy over the years. 2 days after he returned to the White House and issued a flurry of executive orders, the bishops put out a statement criticizing the moves. Several of the executive orders signed by President Trump this week are specifically intended to eviscerate humanitarian protections enshrined in federal law and undermine due process, subjugating vulnerable families and children to grave danger, their statement said. Now I'm going to just stop right here and give y'all the tea. So the tea is, y'all know about Catholic Social Services. They predominantly serve Hispanic, immigrant populations. They don't do a whole lot for white people, for Americans. Their whole thing is kind of like the Billy Graham's charity Samaritan's Purse. Like all these big religious institutions receive all this federal money to provide services to these people. So if you're putting them out, that's less money they're going to be needing. They're not going to be getting. They're not going to be serving all these immigrant people. And if you don't live in a place where you see it, and I won't say immigrant, illegal entrant people, if you don't live in a place that has a lot of them, then you oftentimes don't see it. Now, I'm not saying Catholic Social Services don't help other groups of people, but predominantly they assist illegal entrants. Now, I'm going to look up how much money Catholic Social Services gets annually. So, okay, so this says, how much money does Catholic Charities get from the government? Catholic Charities is a nonprofit organization that provides a wide range of social services to individuals and families in need. And so, here's a breakdown of the government funding received by CCUSA, that's Catholic Charities for United States. So in federal grants, they get $143 million per year. State and local grants, they get $45 million. Medicaid and other health care funding, so they provide like clinics, and so they provide reimbursable services, and they can bill Medicaid and other health care providers. And then other government funding, don't know what that is, $20 million. It could be like I don't know what it could be. I was gonna say it could be like WIC or free lunch programs, services for the elderly, whatever they do. So anyway, yeah, so they do food nutrition programs, shelter and housing, so they might get HUD money, after school programs, immigration and refugee services. That's a huge part of what they do, like I was telling y'all. And then it said other funding sources. And I honestly think they get more than this. I did a follow the money a couple of years ago, and this may be right, but some of these organizations get a lot of money. Like the Ish people, they get a lot of federal money. Samaritan's Purse, I want to say they get like close to $1 billion to provide services all around the globe to children in crisis. Notice everybody loves to help families, especially children. Yeah, I was going to say something terrible, but I'm not. Anyway, getting back to this story. So, Ordo Amoris. One factor influencing the relationship between the Catholic Church and Trump's second administration is the emergence of Vice President J.D. Vance, who converted to Catholicism as an adult. Vance has made headlines lately for a number of comments about the Catholic Church's relationship with migrants and refugees. The Pope's new letter makes it clear that he's been paying attention. In late January, Vance criticized the church for disrupting common sense immigration enforcement, as the Desert News reported at the time. He implied that Catholic leaders are more upset about losing the government money that often comes with immigration related programs than losing the programs themselves. That's just what I said, right? Excuse me. Then in a later interview, Vance reflected on a Catholic teaching about Ordo Amoris, the order of loves, and argued that many Americans invert the proper order. We should focus most of our love and attention on our families, then our neighbors, then community members, and then other Americans before worrying about the rest of the world, he argued. The Pope said in his letter that love is not meant to be boiled down to a neat system of concentric circles. The true ordo amoris that must be promoted, must be promoted, is that which we discover by meditating constantly on the parable of the Good Samaritan. That is, by meditating on the love that builds a fraternity open to all, without exception. That's not true, Pope Francis wrote. He also said that God will reward those who work on behalf of vulnerable communities. God will richly reward all that you do for the protection and defense of those who who are considered less valuable, less important, or less human, Francis said. No scripture yet. Lawsuits over immigration raids in churches. The Pope's letter arrived on the same day, check this out, that more than 24 U.S. faith groups filed a federal lawsuit seeking to block the Trump administration from allowing immigration raids to take place in houses of worship. Until late January, churches were protected from such raids by a Department of Homeland Security policy on sensitive locations. That policy was rescinded soon after Trump was inaugurated. Immigration enforcement in sacred spaces tramples religious freedom rights, argues the new lawsuit, which was brought by the Episcopal Church, the Union for Reform Judaism, the General Assembly of Presbyterian Church USA, the General Commission on Religion and Race of the United States of the United Methodist Church, and 23 other organizations. Now I wonder, do any black churches get in on this? Because I don't see no black churches being a part of this. Black churches should be up in here too, because guess what? When they finish going after all these other color people, they coming for the Negroes. They love to burn down our churches. And those places have been refuges for our people for a long time. Not saying they're gonna be a refuge now, because they done burn bridges, but it's just the principle of, again, how all these other nations and groups, white groups, work together, and they exclude us when it matters. Now I don't know if black churches are included, like under this United Methodist umbrella, or the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church. Like, I don't know, but there are some specific black denominations that should just be standing alone, should not be under that umbrella, and you don't see them listed here, which is also interesting, but not surprising. The Trump administration's approach to sensitive locations was previously challenged by 5 Quaker congregations, as the Desert News reported. The lawsuit is ongoing. On Friday, officials from the Department of Justice released a memo defending their actions. The memo said that immigration enforcement affecting houses of worship had been permitted for decades, and the new policy, announced in January, simply said that field agents, using common sense and discretion, could now conduct operations without pre-approval from a supervisor. So that means they can go into churches when they feel like it, based on when they feel like it, and churches no longer have the privilege of saying that their places are off limits, or this like a refuge. So anyway, I want to share this with y'all because this is a huge deal. It's showing the connection to the government in Rome, which is what I've been trying to show y'all for a minute. And you see how Trump isn't saying anything, but his Catholic surrogates are. Because according to folks, Trump is not a Christian. He is he's converted to Judaism. So I don't know if that's true. He hasn't come out yet and said it, but something is up, because again, he didn't put his hand on the Bible when he was sworn in this particular time. So, and it's very interesting. Just pay attention to these connections to the flexing of the Pope, to the cowering of the president, and to his surrogates who's speaking on his behalf. Because notice in this piece, all the people who are speaking for him, for the president, were Catholics. It's a lot of stuff going on here. And then we talk about the money. See how all these organizations, these religious organizations, get taxpayer money, and black people ain't organized in no way to benefit hardly in any type of way. You have to go to these organizations, to these white organizations, to get assistance. They get all this money, and then here you pay taxes. You can't get any of your money. So, it's just another slap in the face for black people, unfortunately. And I really hope that we just get it finally, because nobody loves us. Nobody likes us. And I'm so tired of saying it. Nobody cares about us. People just use us. They need us to keep the plantation going. As soon as you stop working, the plantation gonna fall apart. So the plantation about to fall apart because black people have awakened, not quite to who they are, but awakened to the system and how nobody cares about them. How everybody will just use them and discard them at their leisure, pick them up when they feel like it, and throw them out again. So just pay attention to Rome. I told y'all Rome is talking, and Rome is asserting its power. It is speaking, and it's asserting its authority, and it is making sure that its agenda with these kids, with these immigrant families, with this no borders, with all this stuff, it is happening. And once you see the big picture, if you're able to see everything in totality, it makes sense. If you just, focus on just biblical prophecy and some of the stuff that you've heard, you can't always see what's happening. But there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. So just make sure y'all keep up with what's going on, because the governments are all merged and there's no difference now. All right. This is Marley K. Love y'all. And I am out.